Yeah, man. So welcome back, 100 Proof Whitetails, doing the old countdown. We were just saying while we were muted up that we got to get a little bit different tunage going for the countdown music for everything. So
we're experimenting with things.
We're playing around a little bit, dude, and that's what we're trying to do, is bring a better product, and working on, actually also in the works. This is the other thing, that when we were making our show notes and I was answering phone calls because I've been running around busier than chicken with my head cut off the last couple of days trying to get stuff done. Potentially some show sponsors coming for products for giveaway, stuff like that. Nice. So stay tuned for more details with that. So we're not just keep net lossing off of our hat deals and stuff like that and hoodies.
Gotta start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere, dude. But we're gaining some traction. A couple things like food plot seed have been thrown out there, archery products. There's a couple things in the works we're working on. Finally out some fine details. But like always, guys, we appreciate you tuning in, subscribing to the channel, dropping likes and comments, letting us know, and just joining in the conversation, and letting us know where you are tuning in from, and we'll get this rolling. Want to go through, I guess, upcoming dates first, and then we can hit all of. Nate did a bang-up job coming up with all these topics for tonight. I think he did a bang-up job, dude.
I think we got some informative topics tonight.
100%. We might have borrowed them from another outdoor research, which we'll give our credit where credit's due.
We got to figure out and do our research on things.
Absolutely.
New York Outdoor Sportsman, love their magazine. I picked up a few of these topics, and I do enjoy reading quite a few of their articles in there.
Yeah. And it's some of the stuff we'll dive into and talk about too with our experience with it.
Yeah, another New York Outdoor News is a great resource and of information for environmental stuff going on around the state.
Yeah, what's going on, what's new, upcoming stuff, which is cool. Helps us keep track of what's coming up with stuff too, with events and everything like that. So yeah, I think we can start with a couple of upcoming stuff, I guess, for us.
You gonna jump on the upcoming shows?
I think upcoming shows and stuff like that's a good place to start with it. So
you roll with that.
Yeah, so just gonna touch on a few housekeeping things with that. March 27th. We are going live with Cartel Custom Calls at their new shop. Nate's got to double check if he can make it there that day, but I'll be there. And we're shooting for a 6 o'clock start because I got to take the show on the road. And that way, we're going to say 6 to 7-ish. That way, if I got any technical difficulties or whatever, we can maybe iron them out. Tentatively, April 3rd, doing another episode with Mike Vienna on New York Upstate Sportsman's. He's got a Facebook page, and everybody enjoyed the episode we did last time with Mike in his barn. We'll see. That one might flex a day or two based on schedules.
He's been a good supporter of ours.
Yep, but we got some other
on his site,
some other scheduling stuff, so we might have to tweak that one a little bit. April 10th is tentatively the part 2 show with my dad for the food plots and that kind of part 2 episode. So if you enjoyed part 1, part 2 will be coming in an upcoming week or two.
Got a lot of good feedback from that episode.
A lot of feedback coming in from that episode. So
a lot of people were talking about that episode at the Runnings thing.
Which is this
past Sunday.
Which is the
Saturday. And
then April 17th is an Asterix road show, but you guys will have to tune in to see where we're going to be shooting the road show from, because that one's a surprise. So, but I guess we could talk about the Runnings thing and how that made out for us. Big shout out to Northeast Big Buck for having us.
Yeah, and our buddy Andy Hall. He's a big part of what they do over there, and I think it went well. It was fun hanging out all day, talking to people about hunting, fishing, talking to people about their trophies they brought in for the Northeast Big Buck Club to score.
Yep.
It was fun to hear their stories about their hunt and everything, and I got to see a few of the deer show up to get scored that I was chasing this year. I think 1 or 2 maybe showed up to get scored that you were chasing
in previous years. Yeah,
in previous years.
Yeah.
It was fun to see him and actually be able to put your hands on him and talk to the guys. So I'd like to say congratulations to Eric and Mr. Klee on their trophies this year. They were beautiful bucks.
Yep. And then one of our neighboring people that hunts a neighboring property next to ours, Dan Albright, he brought in one of the Three Stooges, which, Curly's up here. He brought in Larry, and then Mo obviously got shot 2 years ago when Larry got shot, but he got back from the taxidermist. And so it's official. Curly was the lowest scoring out of all the Three Stooges.
I'd say Larry, he looked like he scored pretty good. What did he go?
He went 129, I think, just under 130.
See, I figured he would have went better than inside kicker.
Yeah, I don't know. He went 130 or maybe 131.
He was also a unique buck because I believe he had a double throat patch.
He had a double throat patch, which was really cool, which you couldn't tell from the trail cam pictures. It was kind of a faint one. It wasn't a real pronounced one, but it was really cool that you could see that.
What was his name, the guy that shot him?
Dan,
yeah. He came over and he was talking to me, and we were talking about that buck. And he said, yeah, did you notice a double throat patch? And I had to go over and check it out. But that was pretty cool. You don't see that all the time.
No. And we were looking at him. I don't have any bucks that I've killed with a double throat patch. Can't say that I really look for it all the time either. We do have I know we have a doe that survived another season with a double throat patch.
I've seen doe with them.
Yeah.
Bucks, though, obviously bucks are a little more.
Right. But yeah, the runnings event was great. I think we ended up scoring just short of 30 heads, maybe. With the ones that I brought in, we had over
the total number was like 36.
It was, but I brought 6 that I had scored.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
When you scored previously, you just
I brought them in to give the paperwork in. Yeah. So everybody that had me score their deer this year, Tyler, who came down during my bachelor party, we scored his buck. Jesse's buck.
Jesse entered his first buck. He's got a couple other ones that would go.
Go Fista.
He's in the book.
A 12-pointer. I don't have a 12-pointer in the book.
No,
you don't?
I do.
Oh, yeah, yours is a 12, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm still chasing that elusive 12-point.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? But, yeah, Brittany's buck went in.
Which Britt buck scored a little lower than I thought it would, judging by what I saw.
He was tight. And his beams were pretty short. It hurt his score. Yeah, he was only, I think I want to say he was only like 13 inches inside.
Oh, really?
Really tight, dude. Really tight rack.
Still a beautiful deer.
Oh, yeah, dude. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, and then Joe had a buddy of his come out. I forget the gentleman's name right off. We scored one for him. Beautiful, kind of funky buck with a lot of character and trash. Really cool buck to score. And then one of Billy Harvey's, I believe it's his uncle that I scored at one of the Shed Fests a couple years ago. I finally found his paperwork, so I apologize I didn't get your paperwork in sooner. But it's going in the book now, so you're all good. We got you entered. It just got stuffed in the back of my folder, my scoring folder, and I'm going through score sheets trying to find one at the show, and I'm like, oh, I said, Tim. His name's Tim. Tim, I'm like, there's Tim's score sheet. I was kind of wondering where this went. I was going to give him his money back at the
apologize for the
Shed
delay,
Fest, so apologize for that. So, but yeah, but I think that kind of catches us up on the housekeeping with that. Oh, we got to do our giveaway. So we only had 2 entries at the running thing because if you've ever
terrible.
If you've ever been in a Lowe's or a Runnings or one of these stores that's older construction, I guess we'll call them, there is no cell service. So we have our QR code set up.
Runnings was similar to Lowe's, Walmart.
Dead zoned out.
Like, it was very spotty in there.
Yep. So,
but 2 entries did go through.
Yep.
On our, what is that, a QR code?
Yep, the QR code. We had, is it Tim Dimitri? Was that
Tyler?
Tyler, sorry. Yeah, Tim's the guy who's bucket scored. Tyler Dimitri, and then we had Caleb
Jensen.
Who he fired it right up, dude, and it worked like
Caleb. He only had like a 10-second delay. He had guys standing there for a few minutes. They're like, it ain't working.
Trying to get it pulled up. So we're gonna flip a coin for it. So if you guys can let us know, first comment that comes in is gonna be heads. So drop a comment in and let us know whose heads. Is it Caleb or is it Tyler? And then we'll flip it. That way the viewers get to decide who's who.
Yep.
I think that's fair.
And then also tonight, if you comment to say hi, we are giving away a hat and some stickers and we're going to spin the wheel at the end of the episode to see who gets the beanie cap, the logo on it, and a few stickers. So just message us on the episode live saying hi, and your name will be put in at the end of the show.
Drop a comment in to win a hat, man.
There you go.
I think that's pretty simple. Let me see. You can't post comments to some destinations. Let me double check, make sure nobody's commenting on one of the other pages. That would be awkward. If not, we'll just do what? Caleb heads? We can do Caleb heads. What do you think?
Oh, Samantha's tuning in. Samantha, what's Caleb want? Yeah. Heads or tails?
Yeah, heads or tails.
Or Tyler, if you're tuning in.
Yeah.
Heads or tails?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you want?
Yeah, let me privacy, public.
Who's the first one that went through?
Tim Davis is entered to win a hat. Says, hey, Ben, hey, Nate. Hey, Timmy, thanks for tuning in.
You want me to write these names down, or are you going to plug them in as
I'm
we go?
going to plug them in on the wheel of names as we go.
Oh, okay. But, yeah, as Ben's getting that put together, a little reminder, Youth Turkey Hunt is April 20th through the 21st. So if you, a little reminder of the dates there. If you got some kiddos you plan on bringing out, and you guys, hopefully you guys are lucky enough to harvest a bird.
Yeah, I would love to, take a kid out or whatever.
Maybe next year we can plan a giveaway hunt or something. We got to talk about it and work on it.
There we go. I just got it. I just figured it out. Heads for Caleb. Heads for Caleb. Everybody's comments coming in at once. I fixed it. The privacy thing, that glitchy thing it does with the privacy, if it's not set for public, the comments won't come through. So heads for Caleb, tails for Tyler. And that's for a thing of our barrel-aged maple syrup that's comes in
bourbon maple syrup.
Yep. So bourbon was in the barrel. We dumped the bourbon out, and then we maple syrup it, and then we rinse and repeat the process basically.
Caleb's big pancake guy.
So
big breakfast guy.
So Caleb's going for the syrup and 3 sticker pack. And then if you guys drop a comment in tonight, you can drop a comment in to get a chance to win one of our hats. So flipping the coin. Oh, tails.
Tyler got it.
Tyler. So we'll get a hold of Tyler. We got his contact information. So, but we do have extra syrup, Caleb. So Nate's going to get a jar. He's going to do some ribs with it. I think we can save you a little bit for some
Caleb,
syrup for the pancakes, man.
If you're interested, just let us know. We'll get you one.
Yep. So we got Sam comments in as well. I'm just going to put Sam Cole for Cole Grove. Dan Festa comments in, says, hey, gentlemen.
Dan, what's up, man?
Actually, Dan was
Dan the man.
His name was thrown out there as he should be brought on as a guest.
He should. One of these episodes. Yeah, someone that knew Dan was at Runnings and brought him up.
I can't remember who it was right off.
Somebody that Jesse was there.
It was somebody that Jesse wrestled with, I want to say.
Was his name Tim? I think his name might have been Tim.
It might have been.
He had a Pale Mac wrestling sweatshirt on.
Yeah.
But he was talking to Jesse a bunch.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesse was recognized. You said you got recognized walking to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Famous in a small town, must be. So yeah. So sorry, Caleb. No dice on the syrup for you, but like I said, we'll be making more. And we got that syrup from McHugh Maple up in, I believe they're Fairport is where they are. Mm-hmm. Small little family sugar bush. I mean, really small. They were gracious enough to split the syrup with us. If they donated it, they get half the syrup back, and then they get some of the maple finished whiskey that comes out of the barrel too. So, actually getting ready to pull batch 2 any day now, which has been aging a little bit longer than expected because Nora came and made her appearance, and I'm just remembering that I got syrup aging in a barrel right now. So this is going to be aged a little bit longer. So we'll see if it's too tanniny or maybe it's going to be better, and we got to let it go a month in between batches. So we'll see. But yeah.
Another heads up, the New York brush burn ban is going on right now. That started March 16th and will be going through May 14th.
Unless they extend it, which usually they do.
Which, yeah, they might extend it. So if you have plans on burning some brush or anything of that sort, maybe you should think about it, maybe reconsider or check with your local fire department.
Yeah.
Before you go do something of that nature.
I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe like contained pit fires or whatever you want to call them, like campfires, small campfire, contained fires are still allowed during the burn ban.
They got like the spark cage over
the spark cage and all that good stuff. Like those, and just be smart, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Make sure you're aware of your wind direction and all of that.
So, phone. I gotta turn my phone on silent. Sorry, guys. Unprofessional move right there. But yeah, Tom Swart comments in, said, "Good evening, guys. Good evening, Tom." I saw he just actually, he kind of came on.
Is he in leagues this year?
No, Tom. He's from out Syracuse way.
Oh, right. I'm thinking of a different sport.
Yeah. So he's part of the Syracuse Bourbon Group. So I met him through the Old Tin Cup page and the podcast, and then actually we came down, swapped some samples and stuff like that, and hung out a little bit. And I saw he had a pretty good haul of a few nice bourbons today, which congratulations on that. And he's a volunteer firefighter, or it might not be volunteer, might be paid, I'm not sure, but I know he's a firefighter. And he comments in and says 4x4 is the max size for a campfire under the ban. So 4 foot by 4 foot. So if anybody was wondering,
thank you, Tom.
There's your information. So thank you, Tom. Absolutely.
I did not know that.
Sam says that they extend it. How long do they extend it for? We have quite a pile building up. That depends on how dry it is and the burn conditions, usually. Yeah. So that's
as of now, with things being pretty wet, the snow and all of that. I mean, you could always just call it the local fire department and kind of feel them out on what they think, if it's something you really got to get rid of right now.
Yep.
Or you could wait. We could get the kiddos together later on after the burn ban, and we have a bonfire at your house, Samantha.
That's also a good possibility. Tom comments back, says, "Nate, you're thinking of my dad in leagues."
Yes.
Yep. Yes. So his dad's local, and Tom has since moved to more Syracuse way.
Yeah.
Yep. Now it's coming back to me. He's over Oaks Corners way, I think, is where his dad is and where he's from. So just down the road, not far at all for us.
Good.
From us. So
good. Well, thanks for tuning in, Tom, and thanks for your input there on the fire ban.
And Sam says, "Heck yeah, sounds good." Yeah, she's over here trying to win Caleb some syrup and stuff like that while he's napping between shifts.
Caleb could probably just come grab some syrup.
Yeah, I can hook him up with some syrup.
It's cool to win it, but Caleb and Sam, if you guys really just want some syrup, we just hook you up.
We can hook you up for sure with it. What else we got on that list right off?
Kind of wanted to go over how it's kind of a good idea, seeing everyone's out looking for those dropped antlers. If you're going out with a bunch of guys or a couple friends, it's always good to set up some ground rules, especially if you're shed hunting someone's hunting permission piece, somebody's personal land, whether you're all going out on private land or public land, some
state
property. Set some ground rules so there isn't a tussle at the end about who gets to keep what on that thing.
Right. That's fair.
Especially if you're the landowner and you invite some friends out, and if an individual picks up a deer's shed that you've been chasing and they want to keep it because they found it and you want it and because it's on your property and you have history with the deer, it can be a whole thing. Right.
So what's I guess your rule? As a general rule,
for me, honestly, with my permission pieces, if you find it, you can have it. I guess unless it's a buck that I've had my eyes on for a couple of years and I'm still chasing. But if it's a buck that I know isn't around or it's a small shed, I mean, I just let the person have it. I don't really keep a whole lot of that. What about you?
So our rule has always kind of been, and that's why I'm very upfront and open with the guys that come out with them, is the shed stays with the farm, for the most part. There are ones that I've barter traded, or I've given ones to like if people have like kids and stuff that come out. The only reason I haven't given O his shed is because I want to kill that deer, and if I kill him, O can still have it. So Owen will probably end up with that nice antler anyway, dude, just because
he's got plenty of antlers.
But I gotta keep it safe until I kill him.
Well, if you kill him, you want to have that history with him. You want to have that shed with that deer.
Yep.
I only have one shed from a bow buck that I killed 3 years ago. I killed him when he was 4, and I have his 3-year-old. It's his I believe his right side. Right side, yeah. But that's the only one that I've ever matched up.
And you didn't figure that out until after you killed him. You got looking at the shed.
And I was like, wait a minute. And actually where I shot him was 100 yards from where I found the shed.
Yeah. So and sometimes it works out like that, dude. But yeah, that's kind of been our rule of thumb. And that's how I am when I go or get invited to go to people's, is I always give it to the permission grantor, I guess you'll call it. Same thing. There's been pieces I shed hunt, even without like the property owner, and they go back to the property owner, and that's kind of been discussed ahead of time. What's kind of weird is if you have a conversation and then you change your mind on the conversation based on the size of the antler. That's where people start going like, come on, man. Like you gave me fair rein. I went and picked up like 8-10 antlers, and then you're like, oh, actually, I got to have all those. Yeah. After I was very clear that, you can let me run it. I'll tell you what I find. They're like, oh, you can keep them until you find some nice bone, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, we need those.
And here's a scenario that I've actually run into, and you were with me. The landowner was not with us. They said you and me could go out there and shed hunt. And then we showed, and he said we could keep whatever we found. He didn't care. Yeah. Then he saw what we found and the amount we found. Yeah. Then all of a sudden the tune changed because we're not allowed to hunt the property. He hunts the property. Yeah. We just got permission on a local piece to shed hunt. Just to walk through it and try and look for some sheds. And he saw what we found. We showed him.
That's the exact piece I'm talking about.
And the individual said that he wanted all the sheds. So him being the landowner,
well, he gave you that one deadhead, the one that was all chewed up and old. He's like, you could keep that one.
I kept the shed. I didn't give it back to him. I'm just not gonna go back and shed hunt it again.
It was like a little like. I found that one really nice heavy side off that 1.8. That was a cool one.
6-point side.
And then Bear found that one gnarly one with the big spike on the one side. We had to give all those back. But anyway.
But those are some ground rules. Obviously don't go where you're not allowed. You know,
don't trespass.
Try not to jump lines. That gets you in trouble.
Because you can still get a trespass ticket even if you're not hunting.
And then, if a friend of yours is gracious enough to show you, let's say, a spot that they frequently shed hunt every year,
or you get invited,
and then you decide, like, instead go out there without him after he showed you. It's kind of like showing someone your fishing spot, and then you go and fish in there, and they're there fishing your spot.
Yep,
it's just kind of an unwritten rule. It's kind of an unwritten rule. You probably just shouldn't do that. That's going to cause problems in your friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually it was funny that I had a guy that I've shed hunted with before, actually a neighbor of mine. He asked me if I wanted to go to a spot. It was actually a piece of public ground. He asked if I wanted to go shed hunting with him or if I was out shed hunting and wanted to go look at this piece or whatever. And I said, no, I got stuff going on with the kid or whatever. I appreciate the offer. And he was saying, he's like, well, I can wait or, whatever. And, that's kind of the unwritten thing like you're talking about. And it's like, nah, dude, it's a public piece. I appreciate that. But, having that conversation and that dialogue, instead of just like, spot jumping or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. That really goes a long way. And that's how you get invited back to go, Dude, I love that. That's my favorite thing when you got a few guys out there with you, and then you hear like a couple, rows away from you or whatever. You hear that, got one, or got it. Oh, dude. Yeah. I got a big freaking side, or look at this old thing, or whatever the heck it is, dude. And those are awesome memories. You can't make those up.
Yeah, so bottom line is, work together, be fair, be communicative with each other, and you just have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just try and avoid the conflict that
and then again, dude, bring your water. Another thing that I like to do too is drop the Onyx pins for where you're finding sheds. That way, if it's a spot that you're going to be able to go back to, hopefully the next year, it's maybe a historical spot where you can find antlers in upcoming years. That's a good key thing to remember. Also, so you don't get lost if you're on a big piece of public that you might not be familiar with, or even a piece of permission that you're on that you might not be that familiar with, get turned around, or you start walking it, and believe it or not, dude, you can turn right around, think you're walking a completely different line, and you look down your Onyx, you're like, oh shoot, dude, I'm walking the same ridge, or I'm looking at my boot tracks.
Yeah. Be aware of your north, south, east, west.
Yep. That just helps you
and
cover more ground effectively.
Be careful who you show your pin drops to, because Jim, he showed me all of his spots where he finds all this shit. Showed me all his pins. So Jim, I know where you find all your sheds now. I'm gonna be checking them out. No, I'm just kidding.
But no, actually, I turned him onto a spot today. I won't tell him where, but I know he's going for that big pop prize or whatever for the Shed Fest with the Pertinier guys. And that's,
he's already got like 20 something sheds.
Yeah, but they put on a lot of miles, dude. Him and the kids and stuff. And
you talk about a lot of miles. When you find someone that has found 20 sheds, and they said, yeah, it averages out about one shed every 5 miles.
Yeah, 3 to 5. 3 if it's a lot of deer in that area. 5 if it's
if you're going, all right, 15 of those sheds is a shed every 5 miles. 5 times 15, you're like
putting 75 miles on for 15 sheds, man. So for that pile, he's got probably over 100 boot miles.
He's putting the work in.
Yeah, putting the time on it. Yeah. Miles for piles is what I've kind of always said with it. You do have to get out there and be ground. You got to be there where they are.
That's what Jim said too. Miles for piles.
And you got to do some homework. Woodsmanship. We talk about that a lot on the show. Reading sign and knowing where deer are for different reasons for that time of the year, whether it's food or cover or a combination of both, or pressure, dude. Pressure is huge when it comes to finding deer sheds. If you have somebody that's on a property, really, really after deer season, it starts pushing deer off of food sources and out of bedding areas specifically, or gets in there early. Sometimes you can push them right off and they haven't shed yet. So that's another thing to keep in mind with the shed hunting thing is timing.
Well, timing. That's where your cameras could come into play, especially if you plan on going in there and doing some habitat work, hinge cutting, clear cutting, food plot work. If you go in there and you do that stuff prior to antlers dropping and your timing's off, you're going to push those deer off of your property, and they're probably going to drop their antlers off on someone else's.
Right.
But if that's the only time you got to get your work done, it is what it is. So if you want to try and find sheds on your property, but also get your habitat work done and before the foliage starts growing and everything, things really start greening up, it's harder to see things. That's where cameras are a great tool, where you go out there and be like, oh, okay, that buck's lost half his rack. Okay, there's 3 bucks on camera that have little knobs on their head. All right, looks like majority of the bucks are shed out. Now's the time for me to go in there and shed hunt it or start doing my work. Right. So, you can balance it out, or like I said, if you're like me and your time's limited and
the ground's open,
what do you want? You want to find sheds, or do you want to get your work done?
And you can get your scouting done. Season. Yeah, scouting's huge, and once you got kids and stuff like that, I'm learning it firsthand right now. You've been dealing with it for over a year now.
Time's everything.
The time is hard to come by. More and more limited, obviously, with the kids and stuff like that. So, that's a nice thing with the with what we got planned tentatively. And of course, it's the 1 week that winter decides to show back up. But tentatively, we were going to hit it hard this weekend and try to knock out the whole farm with a bunch of the crew that comes out every year to shed hunt.
But now you got weather.
But now we got weather and maybe some snow of inches. If we get like a light dusting, kind of like we had this morning, I think we'll be okay. Maybe we start with some of the areas that are going to be eastern exposure, get that sun, burn them off quick, stuff like that. The only thing that, and you guys are going to probably, this is going to bring up a funny shed hunting story of mine and Nate's, but we're going to lay off the fields because my wife still can't kind of, get around all that great yet after, her having
That's
a baby.
Where I like the shed hunt. Ben sends me through all the briars
and all the
thickest stuff. And then if I get out of line, he's yelling at me.
Throwing shit at
30
you.
yards.
Throwing shit at you.
Yeah.
and then we find nothing.
Then he's got Owen on his back. Got my own son yelling at me. 30 yards.
Keep your line. And then I take my wife out and we find like 4 or 5 in the one field in 2 minutes.
I'll go out, walk through all these briars, spend 3 hours out there, not find anything. He brings his wife out there, walks the fields. They find like 4 in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it just happened to be. I didn't do it on purpose. I promise you. And who knows? Maybe they were staged. Maybe they were staged. I don't know.
But, you allowing Owen to walk over there and grab that one shed was was payment enough.
Absolutely.
By the way, he went viral.
Oh yeah,
he's got like almost 3,000 views. It's like holy shit.
Yeah. So
kids and deer.
Catching up on a couple of topics and comments that people have sent in. Festus says, "I'll take a hat." So Jesse, we will enter your name on the wheel, the spinning wheel of names. Can't just give that away, but we do have. What do we got? 2 left. 2 left. 2 left for sale. The rest have been spoken for or sold.
So if you don't win, if you do really want a hat, there are 2 left.
Yep.
The rest of them have sold.
What are we doing? $20 or 25 shipped? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, and CJ's is going out tomorrow.
CJ's is all
packaged
up, ready to go in the mail.
Yep.
And then we got to package up Derek's
to go out to Idaho.
And was it Keith? The other ones?
Derek and Kaylee, him and his wife, and then my cousin Christina is going to come pick theirs up.
Keith already got his.
Yep, Keith picked his up. Yep. So yeah, Jesse, we'll enter you. Mike comments in, Michael John. If I need rules beforehand, I'm not going. We have a code. If Ben finds one side of a buck and then I find a match, I'm giving Ben the match outside of that. What you find is yours. That's everybody's got their own kind of rule with it. Mm-hmm. But as long as you're just up front, with it and everything like that, that's kind of a cool code or whatever. Especially if you're hunting, shed hunting like public land or something like that, or permission ground with somebody, a hunting partner or something like that. That would make more sense for sure. And then, dude, there's been times after season that I've given, sheds back to people and stuff like that they've picked up. Because I do, dude. I have a whole big box over there. But what I want to make sure is like that deer, I don't have like history with that deer consecutively because it can put that whole picture together. Like when I killed St. Patrick and I was able to put like side by side sets together. I know Jake found one of those sides. I found 3 of the 4, but Jake found one of the sides that made him a match that other year. And then, there's been a couple other ones that I found one and, a buddy's found the other. Hacksaws was like that. I'm trying to think of other ones like that. Baby 10 was like that. Yeah, there's been or 8 ball rather was like that. Yeah, there's been a couple of them, dude.
Yeah, you got quite a few matches.
And then I've offered them to neighbors, like the neighbor that killed Mo. He said he didn't have a need for him, so I still have Mo's sheds from the years before. He just said he didn't have a need for him, but I offered that to the neighbor that had shot that deer. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a courtesy that I've given out to is send them over to folks that killed the deer, because then that's part of their story, mm-hmm. With that animal, which is cool.
Is that Bo?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put John's.
Bo's back.
Mike John.
Of course, I haven't been on in a month. I haven't.
I'm just gonna put Mike John for the for the name. Trying to keep all these names straight, make sure we got them all. But yeah, Mike, definitely I like that comment and the rule you got with that. That's a cool rule for sure. Never heard that one actually. Bo says, how many people do you think are going to take advantage of printing out multiple carcass tags this year in New York? So that's another good topic that hasn't been brought up yet. Is the fact that I guess we're going back to paper tags now. We're done with the laminated stuff. So
we touched on it a little bit.
We've touched on it a little bit. The big thing is just keeping your tags dry. And,
a lot of people are worried about the printing. I mean, each tag has a number. Mm-hmm. If you are someone that reuses your tags or shoots more deer than what you're allotted legally, you're not calling your tags in anyways.
Right.
Each tag individually has its own specific number.
Mm-hmm.
And once that number is called in, it's
not a valid tag.
It's not a valid tag anymore.
Yeah.
So if the outlaw, in my opinion, there, Bo, the outlaws are going to be outlaws, and the people that are trying to do things fair and play the game by the rules, it's not going to be a problem for them.
Right.
So you can print off 10 copies of one tag if you want.
Yeah.
It all has the same number on it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, the DEC never comes to my house and every deer I shot checks the tag to see if I reuse it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to call it in, and you got to
report your tags and stuff like that.
What do you want to call it? Not self-discipline, but
self-regulate and stuff. Yeah.
I mean, if
hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
To do it the right way. And like we always say, dude, if you're not winning playing by the rules, what the heck's the point of playing the game?
You're not really winning.
Yeah. If you got to cheat to win, I mean,
you got to cheat to win, or you got to
be successful. You're just cheating yourself, dude.
Yeah. And then if you got to shoot $3 to $5 a year, then you're honestly just hurting yourself and hurting your property for the following season. I mean, you're just hurting yourself, and it's not fair to your neighbors. It's not fair to the hunting community around you. But yeah, that's my take on that. I don't know if Ben's got any more.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
like Bo says, it just makes it way too easy to be an outlaw. Unfortunately, with New York, with our trespassing penalties and our poaching penalties and stuff like that, it is so hard, dude, to like hold these people actually not self-accountable, but then accountable in the eyes of the law, because there is just not the prosecution level, dude, that there should be for some of these offenses. And then, they say, well, they lost their license, or like that poaching case that was talked about in the New York Outdoor News and stuff like that, where they were going in dressing up like, photographers and going into these urban areas and shooting well-known and well-documented deer. Those things, like they lost their license and paid a couple $1,000 of a fine. I think it was like $2,000 or something, not even.
Probably got the deer. Their racks
and the racks taken, and they got their licenses taken. But if they're going through that much trouble, like you don't think that there's going to be more issues. I think that the civil penalty should be higher, and not just like your loss of license, because technically they're not even legally hunting in the first place. So what makes you think they're going to legally operate once they get their license back?
And it's not like New York funds our DEC like they do the state troopers. Like, how many DEC officers are there
per region of stuff?
Per region. Like, even if they just put DEC officers, just for specific seasons, I see more DEC officers around our area during April, during trout season. I think just because they can pinpoint where the people are going to be. They're going to be at these specific spots and specific bodies of water.
Checking on and stuff, yeah.
When it comes to hunting, I mean, there's such a vast area people could be, and it's just it's difficult to really manage that.
Yeah.
And New York doesn't really put a whole lot of effort.
Yeah, and there's not the penalties for it, dude, to hold the people accountable. Like you get a higher penalty for throwing a freaking cup out of your car than you do for shooting a deer. Yeah. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah. It's morals, it's disrespectful to the animals.
I agree. Yep, to not pursue them in a sporting or ethical, legal way, 100%.
You know, it's not fair to them. I mean, anybody can go out and shoot a deer with a spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anybody.
Doesn't mean you're skilled by any means, but.
And then what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you did do that, and there's no fun in it after you. And now you got to just keep the rack in your basement or your garage, and
mm-hmm.
you can't really share it with anybody or enjoy it.
Yeah. So what
what's the point?
What's the purpose of that camaraderie side of it?
It's kind of a selfish act, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Overall.
Very selfish. I agree with that. My mom comments this as Dad says hi. So Mom and Dad are tuning in tonight. Thank you. Yeah, we got done doing a little bit of scheming and planning, me and Dad did tonight. So we'll probably talk about some of that in upcoming episodes. Mike comments back in, says a lot of slob hunters out there, unfortunately. Yeah, just, people that don't care about, the resource and stuff like that, just kind of looking out for themselves, dude, and making it harder for other people, for sure. This is a good comment. Comments, and again, Mike does. It says, Massachusetts, I've been printing my own tags for 5 years now. However, it's illegal to have more than one copy on your person. So that's something that I would like to see New York enforce with the new.
Maybe they have. I haven't completely read up on.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a whole lot.
I don't intend on carrying more than one copy. So
yeah, I don't see the reason to, other than, I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to print out the same. And that's kind of my thought on it, dude, is why they get to feel like they change colors every year. If the DEC officer's checking your tag, he's not going to look at the color of your tag to check it. He's going to check your number and check the year on it.
Doc number.
Your doc
number. You got your doc number.
Yep. And everything like that. Make sure you have this year's valid
the number
tags.
you got to fill out at the processor.
So I can't believe that New York State can't buy a warehouse full of yellow tag paper, to have for the next 20 years of hunters, where they have to have this big debacle right before season where they're like, we can't get our new paper colors. So that's why we had to use old paper. And now it's, well, you guys can print your own and self-regulate yourself. And it's like,
it's eventually all just going to become digital.
I think it is.
You're going to log onto that app. You're going to have to fill out your digital tag and submit it.
And I know there's a lot of states that do that. Currently, I forget. I think people have said Ohio is digital reporting.
I like,
or maybe one of the Midwest states. I can't remember if it's Ohio or not.
I like the states that do the sticker tag where you wrap it around there and they stick together.
Yeah, for the antler and stuff like that, where you wrap it around the leg for a doe or whatever.
Yeah, I like that.
I can't remember. I think that one's Iowa.
I don't know how many times I fill out my tag and I'm sitting there looking for a zip tie, or I'm digging around in my truck for one of my wife's hair ties to attach the tag to the
or you're trying to poke a hole in that tarsal gland to throw a tag in it.
Because I find a piece of electric wire to wrap the tag around because I didn't
wrap it around about 10 times.
Forgot to throw the zip ties in my pack.
I wrapped one around an antler with a ratchet strap end, just to bind it to it,
just to keep it there,
just to keep it there before. So, I mean, there's ways you can get ingenuitive with it. But yeah, most of the time it's just a little bread twist tie if you can
twist tie.
Get it on as
us as Americans. Twist ties, you buy your loaf of bread, you get a twist tie. And then you throw the twist tie out and you spin the bread and you just tuck it underneath and you put it in your cupboard. Just take the twist tie, put it in a little jar on your counter, and then you go. You got your tag thing.
Yep. I mean, that's not going around a big antler, but usually I'll put that through the tarsal and then give it a couple twists and then tags on the tarsal. And that's usually where my tag is on my deer.
Now is it... So what's the law on where your tag is supposed to be on the carcass? Like if it's a buck, is it supposed to be on the antler, or can it be pretty much anywhere? Can it be on the leg? Can it be in the ear? Can it be on the antler?
I believe it's...
And then doe, I believe it's ear or leg is how I've always seen it done. But is there an actual law saying there's actually a specific spot you're supposed to put your tag on a buck or a doe, a carcass?
Yeah,
it just says carcass. So I'm assuming it just goes on wherever you can get it on there.
That's a good question. And if
I've seen people put tags everywhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and I mean, if you've ever gone to like a processor, typically they're putting a punch tag into the hind quarter with a tag gun.
Yeah.
And they're tagging that because the tag stays with the carcass.
That's usually after they skin it.
Which actually, technically, your tag is supposed to stay in the fridge with that deer until that deer is gone. So it's usually
at your
on
house. That is.
Yeah, it's usually on my pack of tenderloins in my fridge.
Yeah.
Or back straps is what it usually I tape it to.
Yeah.
You know, that way I can, and I keep stuff, you know, in different, you know, areas with it, but I have all my tags. But that's usually how I fasten it. But typically the tag has to stay with it. And then if you're taking like your head to a taxidermist, you need to have your dock number or photo proof of that tag, so the taxidermist can have your dock number to attach it to that that mount that you're doing or whatever. You know, and I always recommend to folks take a picture of your tag if you are, you know, left in the processor or are in the process of taking your rack somewhere to show friends or something like that. I would always recommend having your dock number for that rack, just in case there is something that ever gets fishy with it.
It's lost at the processor, or you lose it, or
absolutely. Like that. Yep. So Dad says a thing is a tape tag on the freezer door for what deer are in the freezer at that time. That's a good tip. Definitely a good tip. And then we label them so we know when to rotate meat out, like when we harvested the deer, what it was, buck, doe, where we got it,
doe 1, doe 2,
with a Sharpie or whatever, October doe or, you know, whatever. You know, and that helps you keep meat in good rotation, and you don't let stuff get a couple years old either. Or if it is getting to be, you know, 3 years old, 4 years old, maybe pull it out and use it for like jerky sticks or something like that, because it could get a little dry, could a little freezer burn maybe. But that's definitely a good tip on the freezer door tag display.
Yeah.
What else did we have? I know we had
something that I was reading up on today in the New York State
outdoor
news.
Yep.
Something that the DEC does for the kids. I know a lot of people get their kids involved in summer camps and different things like that. So I'm just gonna read a little bit out of the article here about that. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation reminds potential young campers and their families that online registration for agencies for 2024 summer camp programs will open Sunday, March 24th at 1 p.m. Parents and guardians can register youth for a week of camp and manage their account through the DEC Summer Camps webpage. Now in its 77th year, the DEC Summer Camps program offers week-long adventures and conservation education for children ages 11 to 17. At press time, DEC was planning to open 2 of the 4 camps this summer. There's one in Rushford in Canandaigua. Allegheny County will offer 3 weeks of programming for children ages 14 to 17, including an outdoor adventure week and 4 weeks for 11 to 13-year-olds. Camp Pack Forest in Warrenburg, Warren County, will host children ages 11 to 13 for 3 weeks and 14 to 17 years old for 4 weeks, with 1 outdoor adventure week. DEC may open registrations for Camp DeBruce and Camp Colby at a later date if additional staff becomes available this spring. DEC is now hiring directors, counselors, lifeguards, cooks for the 2024 season. Visit dec.newyork.gov/things to do summer/camp/education camp employment. Campers are limited to 1 week of camp registration. If spots are available after May 24th, campers will be allowed to sign up for additional weeks. A schedule of camp weeks is available on the DEC website, dec.newyork.gov. Things to do, summer camps, weeks, and availability.
Yeah.
So March 24th, if you're looking to get your kids a little more involved with the environmental side of things and sounds like it would definitely sounds like something I would look into maybe sending Owen to one day.
Yeah.
These outdoor adventure week, that sounds like a good time, but I thought it was pretty cool. It's something I wasn't really fully aware of. I knew they did little camps, but I didn't really know it was to this extent. But that was something I wanted to share with you guys. I thought it was kind of cool for anybody who's got some kids ages 11 to 17.
Absolutely.
Get them a little more involved and some experience. Get them outdoors off of the Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo Switch, and get their hands dirty.
For sure. And I'm definitely, I know like the Audubon Center in Savannah does youth camps too as well. I don't know if they're still doing them, but I know that they've done youth camps in the past. So there's a lot of public areas that you could start searching for and looking for some of these, day camps or, week-long, kind of camp things and stuff like that. And we've always enjoyed doing youth hunts. We've done youth deer hunts at the farm, and we're always open to that, with, youth hunters. And I've guided on some youth turkey hunts through some of the local DEC regions. There's a lot of people that have offered up their property to take youth out on those properties for, pursuing turkeys and stuff like that. Had some phenomenal hunts, with some kids, some swings and misses, but also some successful ones over the years too. And then we've had a lot of successful deer hunts at our property for youth hunters. So that's something that we look forward to doing when we're given the opportunity to, or we know a youth that's, looking for an opportunity to maybe harvest their first animal. We love doing that. Me and Dad especially. He's been in the blind before with kids. I've been in the blind before with youth. So yeah, it's definitely something that if you've never been there, or even with a first time hunter, we've taken first time hunters out and stuff like that as well. We definitely enjoy doing that side of it. So, but don't send me a thing that's like, I'm Carlos, I am 12, and you're like a 50-year-old guy. Again, I'm all for also trying to help new hunters and stuff like that to have the opportunity to harvest their first deer, or if they have any questions with it. We're not just trying to give like the deep dive impact question answers for these topics. A lot of times we like to give out the stuff for, the JQ guy that's just getting into it or doesn't, have that much experience with it, or, some of the basic stuff that kind of might get overlooked even by the most experienced hunter. When we talk about the woodsmanship dives into some of these comments and topics and stuff like that, it's really critical, and it helps you be more successful consistently and in the long run.
You never know who you might learn something from.
Yeah, and I tell that to people when I'm out consulting all the time, is every property you kind of learn something different or see something in a little bit different light, which is really cool about, getting to go on properties all over the state and all over the Northeast with doing the consulting and the real estate and stuff like that. It's really, really cool opportunities.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I just got a message from my dad, and it says my son is watching us right now. So, you better be being good for Mop and Poppy.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Hope he's behaving.
And Grandpa. Go throw something at Grandpa.
There's probably not enough deer around for him to be deering it up. Usually when he comes down here, he's like,
he's got a dinosaur truck over there with a bunch of dinosaurs.
Oh, there you
in the
go.
Back of the truck. He put all the dinosaurs in his cage. And
there you go.
He likes playing with it.
So,
but what are we running on time?
About 54 minutes.
Right,
so we got a couple more minutes.
So the one last thing that we had here, we got a little chart we want to bring up. This was something also out of the New York Outdoor News. Something we wanted to ask you guys and see what your thoughts were. Is what do you think is the reason for the improvement of hunter safety over the past 60 years? And as you can see on the chart, it kind of explains all of the incidences that have, the quantity of instances that have happened
in that
from
decade,
1960 to present.
Yeah, the 2020s, which is crazy to think we're in the 2020s. The one thing that I see looking at this graph is we're kind of on pace only 3 years into it, which I know we had hunter-related shooting incidences. We had a really high number. Was it 2 years ago? I think. I want to say.
Yeah.
We had a really high record year, I believe. And if you look at the graph, the 2020s are actually, they're the lowest right now, but we're only 3 years into the 2020s. So I think it could outpace the 2010s.
I believe even with the instances that we heard about this year and that happened, I think this was actually
the safest on record.
It was the safest on record year, even with
right.
But I mean, what do you think may be a contributor to that?
I'm gonna go with the elephant that in the room that maybe nobody's talking about, and is just lack of hunter numbers as a whole. Okay. I think it's because of declining hunter numbers. There's less instances because there's less people in the woods, and kind of as a direct correlation with that is like hunter access to properties and stuff like that.
There's not so much big party hunts anymore.
Yep,
everything's more private.
Yep. I think those are my two, I guess, main driving things with it. What's your thoughts on it?
I did think of that. Another one of my thoughts were the advancements in equipment, technology.
Yep.
Obviously, the safety harnesses, the amount of information and input there are out there that is available to the general hunter on safe ways to do things and safe equipment. I think legal reasons.
Yep.
I think that also touches into what you say, why there's less hunting numbers. Liabilities are a big reason why, you can't just get 15 guys together and go tromp through an entire block of woods.
Yep.
Because like you used to in the 70s, because that block of woods has 10 different owners involved in it.
Or used and abused over the years, and nobody's allowed to be in there.
Or there was conflicts or an accident that happened. I think, and then, being able to communicate with others with the cell phones and everything, kind of knowing where people are at. Even even if you are doing drives, walkie-talkies, you're like, hey, give me a yell just so I kind of know where you're at.
Yep.
You can kind of,
that really was breaking on the scene in the 80s and 90s. I think the walkie-talkies, which saw basically pretty much the biggest drop in hunter-related shooting incidences. Is if you look at it, it's trending in a downward thing as a huge thing. And I think more recently, more hunters wearing orange and the increased knowledge of the hunters wearing orange. And also, I guess this is kind of also adds into it. It's kind of like there's a ton of different things that play into it, but also people maybe being a little bit more picky on what they're shooting for deer. They're not just dropping maybe the first deer. There is a record number of younger deer getting passed for a chance at an older age class deer too. So that's going to also make you think or look at it a little bit more critically. Antler restrictions. I mean, there's a lot of things I think that play into it, but if you could pick one, what do you think is the most, I guess not to blame, because we don't want to blame, but what's the biggest reason why
biggest contributor?
Yeah, the biggest contributor to these numbers being as low as they've ever been.
Me personally, I honestly think it's the people being very strict about people hunting their land. I think it's the
land
liability
access
thing. I think it's the land access thing.
I see that.
And limiting the number of people you allow to hunt your property. By doing that, those individuals will most likely communicate with each other, being like, hey, I'm going to go sit here, where it's back in the 70s, there was no cell phones.
Right.
Joe Schmo could be sitting 100 yards from you and you don't even know it.
Right. No orange, no nothing.
No nothing. Like I think that's a big part of it, with the safety aspect. But that's kind of where
I think I honestly I started it off with the number of hunters, but I think it's more the changing mindset for hunters. I think is the biggest thing. The fact that it's not, you know, as much as more of the brown is down mentality. There is still some of that, obviously, and I don't think that will ever go away. And the people that obviously hunt to fill the freezer, but you know, in some areas, not all, there is some of the better deer numbers we've seen in a while. You know, and it's as not a big of a need, and I think it's going to end up being more of a need for food need for people because of the cost of groceries and other things like that. I think there's going to be an increased push for, you know, wild game for people to go out there and hunt. So we'll see how that kind of affects these two numbers going forward. And the change in hunter safety being remote now primarily, and not having hands-on education with handling firearms is one thing that I am very much against, though, with the new hunter safety format. And I'll voice my opinion on that with it for sure. That I'll stand on that soapbox and say that you should be taught how to handle a gun, because you can log on right now, and if my wife or whatever never handled a gun, you could go past your hunter safety course, never have handled or shot a firearm, and you can go out to the woods the day after you pass the course and try to pursue game if it's in season. And that to me is like, what?
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
But no, I think that's a good illustration, and I definitely think it's moving in the right direction. And maybe it's for the wrong reasons, but you know, decreased numbers, decreased access, but less incidences is definitely a plus, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I personally feel pros and cons to why it is the way it is.
Yeah. So had a bunch of comments coming on this, so I definitely want to hit them. So we'll jump them right over the top of the screen, so you're gonna get a little bit cut off on the data. But Charlie Randall says, "I'm so glad that you guys mentor new hunters. Wish I had somebody to mentor me when I was younger. I still learn a lot from your shows. Thank you." Yeah, Charlie, appreciate the comment in, and
appreciate that.
Yeah, and then again, like if anybody has questions on any of the topics, even if it's something we're not talking about, drop a comment in, and we'll get to it during the show. And if for whatever reason we don't get to it during the show,
we usually take notes. We usually take notes about comments that, and maybe in the next episode or a couple episodes, we'll bring it up. We are aware of your comments. Just sometimes we get overwhelmed with stuff, and we're not always able to get to everybody.
Yep. Or if you get a comment in after the video drops, like on the video, we'll try to touch on that next episode and say, hey, people were asking about this. Or if you shoot us a message, you know, we can throw that right into the next show format too.
Yep.
So yeah. Charlie says, do you think that opening up the season to rifles made a difference? Rifles versus shotguns for shooting related instances. The data shows no.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to being a responsible hunter, and like, you know, with a shotgun, you're going back to like doing drives,
slinging a little lead.
A rifle is just as dangerous on a drive. If you have a semi-automatic 30-06 and a deer goes screaming by you and you bang 6 rounds off at it, it's the same as banging 5 rounds of your 12 gauge or 20 gauge and you're just slinging lead. And I think that's where a lot of you know, hunters getting caught up in the moment, maybe not thinking completely, and while they're doing certain styles of hunting, which I'm not saying these styles are wrong in any way. I'm just saying, because I do drives, but we are very communicative on our drive. We communicate very well on our drives. We lay out a plan. We pull up Onyx, which is a great tool, and we point out on Onyx where our sitters are going to be and how everything lays out. I don't think rifle and shotgun, I don't think that's made any difference in the safety side of things.
I would say maybe because you're putting better glass on it in case you are taking a, let's just say, above 100-yard shot that you might not have been shooting with a pumpkin slug, you know, because then not even red dots, but like iron sights with a 100-yard gun, you know, you might be still slinging lead at a deer at 125, but with the scope, you can really dial it up on them at 125.
The accuracy
aspect of it helps.
Definitely helps.
But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be taking into consideration your trajectory of your bullet. Like me and Dad talked about last show, him having to pass D because he was skylined. With a rifle or with a shotgun, he was still skylined. Like you can't take that shot. You didn't have that rule number 1 of know your target there and beyond. There was no hillside to shoot into. It was shooting into.
Yep, you weren't shooting down. You were shooting up.
Yep, he was shooting from the ground too. So that makes a difference as well, because that trajectory is just increased in angle. So, I don't see it. I'd be curious for the data of shooting instances versus deaths. I don't know, but dude, it's so.
And to touch on what you were saying a little bit with the shotgun shooting at something 125 yards out versus putting glass on it. It definitely gives you a better view of your target putting glass on it, but I know a lot of people that hunt with scopes on their shotguns. But it's doing your due diligence, like I've said, or we've talked before about spending time with your rifle, your bow, your shotgun, and putting the time in to get to know where that gun's shooting. If you plan on taking a 150-yard shot with your 20 gauge,
I know it, dude.
Oh yeah, I know my gun can do it. I've killed a deer at 130 yards with my shotgun, but I've practiced.
Yeah. I
took my gun to the range, I set it up, and I shot at that 150 mark to see where my bullets were landing.
Right.
And, I did my due diligence to get my gun set up and give myself the knowledge of how that gun shoots at that kind of range.
Right. Now we're talking about ammo. Want to give a shout out to Gerald.
Yeah, it was great to meet him.
Yeah.
He stopped by the runnings.
We met him and we were just talking ammo, and I got thinking about it. He dialed us up some 6.5 for you and 270 custom loads for me that I can't wait to throw through the rifle and see what they do on some deer.
And he does, if anybody's interested, he does a little blog, I believe, for the Newark Rod and Gun Club.
Yep.
If you can find him on Facebook, and he puts all his blogs right on there.
Yep.
You can read he has a lot of good content on reloading ammo and
reloading, hunting tips, lots of different
very
things.
knowledgeable about that stuff.
Yep. And he worked with my mom at Newark Hospital for a bunch of years, so that's how we had mutual connections or whatever. And my aunt actually kind of put us in contact with him, and he started tuning into the show. So Jerry, if you're listening, thank you, and we really appreciate it. And,
Gerald, whichever one you prefer to go by.
Yeah. So, and it was great to meet you, and glad we could get you a hat and some stickers, and give you some love and support back.
Yeah. It's not the equivalent of ammo, but
yeah,
just a small thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should probably plan a day to meet up with him and go down to the range and just throw a few rounds down range.
Yeah, actually, I gotta talk to him about the 357 ammo, because those rounds that I run out of that 357 of mine, those partition golds, they don't make them anymore. The ones that I've shot like St. Patrick with and those does, I only got about a box left of those old school partition golds.
You'd be the guy to talk to.
I think if we can mimic that round, dude, and I want to try. I got a bunch of ammo for it. I want to try them. I'd like to take a few more deer with the handgun this year and try it. But yeah, just playing with some ammo and some loads going forward. Mike says fewer hunters out there, more people wearing orange, more guys hunting from stands, all contribute. Stand hunting, that's another good point. You're shooting down a lot more. You're not shooting as flat or angle of trajectory. That's another good point, Mike. 100%. Bo says, or less deer to shoot at? Question mark.
I don't think so. Maybe.
Well, in different areas. I
didn't grow up in the 70s and 80s, so I couldn't tell you. I was born in 91, so I've heard from a lot of the people that have hunted, that were big hunters back, I said there's nowhere near the deer population now that there was then. Me
in
personally,
different areas,
I have no personal experience with the 70s and 80s. Unfortunately, I wish I did.
I've heard it from different sides of the coin. I've heard in the southern tier, that 60s, 70s, and 80s heyday, there was a ton of deer down there. There was a lot of more mixed habitat. There was a lot more younger mixed aged forest, better deer habitat than there is now with mature timber. And this is something I talk about with clients and fight with them all the time with. And just have those conversations, as just because you have mature oak woods doesn't mean you're going to hold and have more deer. If you have mixed age woods mixed with oaks, obviously to complement that, you're going to be much better off than just a mature stand of woods, because they need cover. They need woody browse. They need protection from the elements. When the weather gets crappy, this year's not a good example, but outside right now, I heard it's a pretty good example with the snowstorm and stuff like that. Snowstorm. Everything's a snowstorm. Which was never the case, dude. We used to go to school if there was a foot of freaking snow.
Yep.
And people back in the day probably said that we went to school if it was 2 foot of snow. We walked uphill both ways and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that deer numbers, I think deer numbers and deer quality has gone up in our region in my years of hunting, probably.
Finger Lakes.
Yeah, in my 15 years of hunting, the Finger Lakes, I would say 15 years has progressively gotten better. Numbers, I think, have stabilized in some areas. Obviously, completely boomed in others, but it's very much region specific and like neighborhood specific for both of those, quality and for quantity of animals. And kind of looking critically at why. Maybe it's the number of hunters, maybe it's loss of habitat. There's a bunch of things that play into it, dude. It's not apples and oranges to be counting with it, but I don't know if it's less deer to shoot at necessarily. Some areas I could see that if your woods is just maturing out. And quick illustration, if your typical woods is providing 50 pounds of food per acre for whitetails versus a timbered area that's producing 1,000 pounds of food per acre for whitetails, how many acres does it take to have a deer at 50 pounds an acre versus 1,000 pounds an acre? You're looking at completely different numbers. You're looking at 2 acres to support 1 deer for a full year, whereas you're looking at almost 40 acres at 50 pounds an acre to produce the food for 1 deer. I think it's a habitat thing, and let alone like hedgerows get ripped out, housing going in.
Well, in the 70s and 80s, the 70s and 80s, you had a lot of those goldenrod fields that are now turned into ag fields.
Yep.
And those ag fields are only good for whitetails.
And you had
before they're harvested. After they're harvested, there's a few weeks span that they're actually good for them.
Yep.
Minus the alfalfa fields.
And equipment's so freaking efficient now, dude, that the spillage isn't there. We talk about those pasture grounds getting converted into some of the best bedding areas that we see is old pasture ground. And there was a lot of pasture ground from, like, let's just say the early 1900s, where you're looking in 1920s, 30s, 40s or whatever, farms, getting let go, people going to the city for work and stuff like that, or coming back and, trying to work these areas up. And then you have farms going out of, rotation for grazing or whatever, and the rotation to row crop because it was making more money. And then you have areas getting let go, and then you have more food available, more cover available, and that's increasing deer numbers. And stuff's getting timbered. That whole industrial boom timbered a lot of that southern tier area, mixed habitat. Populations were never better, in some of these areas, which it's declined since. So. So yeah, Bo, maybe it's less deer to shoot at too. That's another fair point. Dave says, want to make sure we get Dave in on the thing. So this is last call for comments. I just want to make sure we get David Todd in on the entry for the hat. And if you're watching right now and you haven't commented in tonight, get a comment in to get a chance to win one of our hats. We do still have 2 others available. So if you are interested, get a hold of us. After that, we're going to probably do a bulk order if we get enough feedback from them, stuff like that. But we got what we get, 15, 20?
Got 20 of them.
20. So our 20 are basically gone at this point. They'll probably be gone by the end of the week. Yeah. At this rate. So I want to hit Dave's comment though. I have yet to wound a deer with my rifle. Can't say the same for my shotgun days.
Well, that's just part of the game. Wounded deer. I mean, you hunt.
I think you're a better shot now, Dave.
maybe you're a better shot.
Maturity as a hunter. I mean,
understanding when to shoot an animal. you know, not taking those or not rushing your shot so much. The more you hunt, the more you have experience being around the animals in the woods, your composure is gets better.
Yeah,
there's a lot of factors that come into that, but I will say that rifles are consistently more accurate than a shotgun, but it still just comes down to knowing your game, knowing when to shoot, your woodsmanship, to know where to set up to be able to put yourself in the best position, knowing your weapon. But yeah. Well, I think that's a great place. We're a little over that 1 hour mark, about an hour 15. But we want to definitely get the random name drawn for the. Got to pull it up here. Get the random name drawn for. There it is. Look at that. I'm getting so good, dude, at this. Oop, I got to keep it up. Must be. I'm getting good at this. So this is our random spinny wheel. As you can see, the name's going round and round and round. We got everybody that's dropped in a comment. Oh, look at this. Last minute. All right, guys. Okay. All right. I'll be fair. We didn't spin it yet. We'll drop them in. Aaron, what's he got to say? So we got Clayton comments in. It says, how are you deciding bow stands versus rifle stands? This is a good topic, and we can hit it briefly, but I think that's a good one for next week, too. I'll make a note of that. Yeah, definitely make a note of that. I like that topic. Bow stands versus gun stands. It all comes down to I typically like to set them up for bow because I like to shoot them with a rifle at 20 yards, too, or my handgun now. Yeah, I think the lay of the land and your access are kind of the biggest factors for a bow stand versus a rifle stand. If it's an area you can't get too far into, like a food plot especially, you've talked about this before, setting up on the perimeter edges and get it very, very sniper-esque with your approach to your access. That's how I kill a lot of my deer gun season. Yep. But yeah, I think you definitely have a lot more options with the gun than you do the bow. So I'm with you. I usually set all my stands up. I have certain stands that, because, if I have history with the property and I have a good idea where the deer are coming from, where they're going to, time of day they'll be out there, blah, blah, blah. I do have a couple stands set up specifically for gun. But all pretty much 90% of my stands are set up for a bow. Because with a gun, you have so many other options of how you can hunt an area. Yeah. And I mean, I've talked about this with people before. The furthest buck that I've shot with a weapon was George, and I think it was like 120 yards, and I wasn't expecting that shot. The rest of them have been sub 60. I haven't shot a deer over 60, a buck over 60 yards. Trying to get some does harvested, I've shot them over 60 yards, but also depends on time of year, spot, location. But mostly access, I guess, decides a bow stand versus a gun stand. I think most of the time, and setting them up for, if you don't want to push too far toward that movement, or you got like a crosswind situation, especially, where you got kind of a channeled spot that you might not be able to get into bow distance for, but you can cover it. I know we looked at a couple spots on yours that are really nice shotgun spots, 50, 60 yard crusher spots. On a couple of your pieces that we look at and we're like, man, we'd like to be closer, but like the wind or like coming up, you expose yourself to this area. There's just some spots that just lay out to be a gun spot versus a bow spot. It's just the way it is. Yeah, there's a spot on one of mine. I would love to get a stand in there, but the way the timber lines up and the way the hillside is, trying to access it and everything else, I feel like I would just do more damage by actually putting a stand there and trying to hunt it than I would, then it'd be better just to wait and just sit off of it and hunt them from a farther distance with a gun in that spot.
And not blow the property up. We're gonna dive into this comment. I like this comment a lot next week, or in a future episode. I mean, obviously we got the cartel guys next week, but hopefully you can swing out for that one. But that's a good one, and maybe get their take on it. Bow stands versus rifle stands. Even though I'm sure they're just gonna be talking about rope and calls and stuff, but we'll get into some deer hunting because those guys kill some nice deer too. So
yeah, Tyler got a great one with the muzzleloader, I believe.
Tyler's killed some nice deer. Trent's killed some really nice deer too. So, yeah, we'll see how many guys are there in the cartel shop that night, swinging by for the live. Aaron comments in. Aaron's the last comment. We're capping it right now. These are the last entries. Clayton and Aaron are the last comments for the night for the entries for the hat. Do you think that New York will ever do an old school flintlock hunting season after the late season holiday hunt? So another extension to the holiday season? I don't think so. I vote no, it won't happen. Not saying I don't want to see it. I'm just saying
idea.
It's a cool idea. I know Pennsylvania does it. They do a primitive season. Like a primitive. Like it's flintlock.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that even during the muzzleloader season, you can only hunt flintlock in Pennsylvania. I don't think you're allowed to use inline. I could be wrong. I don't. We say this a lot. We don't hunt other states. We've just hunted New York primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
love the
I would
with Ohio and Pennsylvania.
Yeah. And then I got a potential to get into some other states here going forward too. So maybe dip my toes in a little water of going to different states. I mean, I went to Idaho last year. Well, I wasn't hunting, but I was along for the hunt. And just looking at different ways that the cultures are out there in the different areas and regions. It's really cool where you're like talking to locals and they're like, oh, you guys can do that. Or like, no, you can't do that. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the season's getting plenty drawn out or whatever as it is. I think it's
3 months.
It's really getting into that teetering point where your return on investment for it isn't going to get you much more. The only way I could see him doing that is if you had to buy another license or permission, which I'm kind of surprised they haven't done with the holiday hunt yet. Maybe they will going forward. You have to buy another $10 tag or something. Don't that last 10 days. So we'll see.
Hopefully they don't.
Yeah, I mean, you've done really well in the holiday season. You killed that nice one in the holiday.
Yeah, I got
day after Christmas.
Got a buck on the wall from day after Christmas. But ever since then, I think I've killed a deer in the holiday season. The doe I shot with the muzzleloader this year was the holiday season, I believe.
Yep, for sure. And then we'll just throw Bo's comment up here. He's already entered to win the hat, but he's like, no, not another season.
Is that you talking, Bo, or is that your wife?
Yeah. No, but so we're gonna do the name draw. Let me get this up on the full screen so you guys can see this. So you guys can see the full name or the full list of names. Everybody that's commented in tonight, thank you all so much. And we're gonna give it the real-time spin. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. So this is for that free hat and Jeff. He was one of the first comments. I think he said Hatney. So maybe that was the lucky comment was the Hatney. So scroll back up. Let me see if I can do this. Dan, Jeff. Boom. Jeff says hat me, and we hat you.
There you go, Jeff. Congratulations.
So I'll catch up with Jeff. Like I said, we got some other stuff in the works.
What's he got, a moose on there?
Yeah, he was up in Alaska, shot a nice moose. But yeah, we got some stuff coming up. Hopefully some new sponsors to announce for the show for giveaways, product stuff like that. We'll be doing some more giveaways. We got a bunch of syrup and bourbon that's coming out of these barrels and stuff like that we want to give away, obviously, to our 21 and over viewers, and then some hunting products along the way as well going forward with it. So, but thank you guys for all the support. Like always, we say, if you would love to, we really appreciate subscribing to the channel. That way you get notified whenever we're live, whenever we put out new content. We're on all the major podcast platforms that we know of. And then, yeah, we just love to hear your comments and your questions, the positive and even the negative.
We love talking hunting, especially deer, but all hunting.
Turkey's
fishing.
coming up, man.
Yeah, we gotta here next month. We'll dive a little more into the turkey stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure the cartel guys next week will be talking turkey. Mike Vienna's a big turkey hunter.
Yeah, turkey stuff content will be rolling in here in the next weeks.
Yeah, going into that May time frame. Yeah, absolutely. So
a little before youth season.
So, yeah. Anything else, Nader?
I'm good.
Good. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you all next time, wherever we're doing the show from. 100 Proof Whitetails. Take care, guys.
Yep. Thanks.